dance. It's good for you or something. Many wise and inspirational things have already been said on the subject.
Fuck off! I'm hired to sit here and be sarcastic.
I hate it. I hate the movement of it. It's just arrogant walking.
What is fun about it? I'm like a frightened horse on a frozen lake.
The world is full of people trying to make people who don't want to dance.
It's assault is what it is.
Now it's happening to people on television.
What sort of Reich is this you're establishing?
This is society at its ugliest.
Although for some reason, almost never on American TV. But I think I can bring some additional insight from the point of view of a non-dancing dancer? Dancing non-dancer? Fundamentally, I'm still a person who refuses to dance in most contexts, especially the context. But I do enjoy some very specific types of dancing in certain structured, controlled environments. So I think a lot of my friends would be very confused if I tried to claim that I don't dance. Don't worry, I'm not going to try to tell you that the problem is you've been trying the wrong kind of dancing. The problem is still with jerks trying to get people to dance against their will. It's more that I think the people trying to make you dance are wrong in more ways than you might suspect. You'd like it if you tried.
Seriously, I think you're going to love it.
They love it. You don't know what you're missing, John.
I can't believe you didn't feel the urge to bust a move.
I bet you do dance.
You must have enjoyed that.
I bet you dance at home.
You must like some dancing, don't you?
Must I? Sadly, dancing is still one of these subjects where it's considered acceptable, even good, to express this kind of willful lack of empathy. Literally, refusing to believe that it's possible to have a different reaction than your own. I don't understand why you feel this way. But also I don't want to understand. I just want you to stop that now and do things the way I do them, the normal way. No means no. And unfortunately, trying to explain yourself just gives people more ammunition. The more information you provide about how you feel, the more excuses they have to try to argue why that's wrong and how you should feel instead. In these situations, I find the most effective technique is what I, somewhat inexplicably, call the limp fish, which is where you just stand there, don't do anything, don't react in any way, positive or negative. Can't do anything with that. Dancing can decrease anxiety and improve confidence. That's selection bias. Dancing can decrease anxiety in those people whom you've been able to coerce into dancing. Also possibly Stockholm Syndrome. Dance like no one's watching. This is how I dance when no one's watching. Unfortunately, the people trying to get me to dance very rarely find this to be an acceptable level of dancing. It would appear that's just not enough enthusiasm for the dance, or the music, or something. I can't be totally sure because nobody ever tells me the rules, but it would appear that's the wrong way to dance. There's no wrong way to dance. This is not only demonstrably bullshit, it's also the opposite of a convincing argument to get me to dance. Why is it a good thing if there are no rules or degrees of wrongness or ways of making sense of this activity? So you're telling me you want me to do something for which there's no set of guidelines, no way of determining whether I'm doing it correctly, or in a good way, or how well it's going, but also clearly what I'm doing right now is not correct. I think very few, there's no wrong way to dance, people would say that standing around, scratching your nose and looking terrified is a correct way to dance. Empirically, based on personal experience. Usually the wrong type of dancing involves not doing enough or not being expressive enough in some way. Although there's also the coping strategy of dancing in intentionally wrong ways, where you're trying and succeeding in demonstrating that you don't actually know how to dance correctly, nor are you trying to. Is that wrong? Or is it a correct type of dancing because it's exaggerated and therefore expressive enough? But if it's correct, and it was trying to be wrong, then is it wrong because it has failed at being wrong? Nobody cares if you can't dance well. Just get up and dance. No one cares. There's nobody at all looking or judging you. It's all in your head. You're just imagining your problem. There's no actual problem. What's wrong with you anyway? For some, the assumption exists that dancing of any form requires skill, and there's both a right way and wrong way to move. This is from a Psychology Today article, which is always a fun publication. Pop science, written by people who are sometimes scientists, not always in the field they're writing about. Of course there are rules. Of course there are wrong ways to dance. There are some things that are obviously objectively wrong, and some things that are objectively good, and lots of things spanning the space in between, just like with everything else. The problem is when the rules are hidden in secret. It's the refusal to tell us the rules that creates the dancing anxiety. I understand that people aren't necessarily hiding the rules on purpose. Mostly I think they just can't actually articulate them, and they don't see the need to, which is problematic. From the point of view of anxiety, compare dancing to something like martial arts. Both involve learning and replicating a precise set of movements, but it's very rare that people react with the same social anxiety to the suggestion of learning martial arts. Because when you're learning to punch, grapple, kick, and so on, there's a clear set of criteria for what you're trying to achieve, and ways of telling whether you're doing it wrong. Whereas the there's no wrong movement type of dancing is something you're supposed to learn in a complete vacuum devoid of all feedback. What are the criteria by which I should make a decision about what to do next? Okay, so I can tell you that the actual rules of dancing are 1. Rhythm, which at least can be measured and assessed fairly objectively. For me personally, games like Rock Band and DDR were quite helpful in figuring out whether I was doing it right. And 2. Expressiveness, style, loudness, showing off type of thing. Now, the types of dances that I actually go for are dances where it's very obvious when you get the first one wrong, because you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and where I can ignore the second one in favor of an alternative, which is communicating with the people I'm dancing with. And I don't mean communicating in a sort of a hippie, woo way. I mean actually conveying information and making and executing some kind of joint decision. Specifically, my gateway dance was contra dancing, where the caller tells you exactly what the next figure is, the other dancers guide you to where you should go if you are in the wrong place, and you're literally not supposed to do anything fancier than walking until you figure out how the basics work. After that, I also got into things like swing dancing for engineers, where people teach you about dance physics, and how to tell what your partner is trying to do, and they don't make you go to social dances if you don't want to. And sword dancing, which is choreographed and mostly has to do with making cool figures out of bendy metal objects, and trying not to whack anybody in the face with them. Does that mean you would also derive enjoyment from this type of dancing? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know you. But here's some things I do know, as an experienced dancer. Dancing is objectively terrifying. Now, obviously there are people who aren't scared of things they should be scared of, but for most people, dancing, especially learning dancing, is fucking scary. Even for the ones trying to get you to start dancing. Come on, let's dance. Oh, you do dance? Contra dancing? Oh, that sounds like fun. You should take me with you sometime. Oh, today? No, I think I'm tired. And I don't really, no. And not really at any other specific particular time you might suggest. But in general, sounds like a great thing. We should do it. For some of those people, it's scary and also fun, yes. But if you're not scared, then you're the abnormal one. Which is fine, but you shouldn't be assuming that all people should just be like you. If you pretend that dancing is not terrifying, then you're only going to get the people who are willing to pretend to not be terrified. Ideally, we would accept and externalize the terrifying part of dancing instead of pretending it's just great non-scary fun. Maybe then it would even be possible to watch other people dance, without the constant risk of being pushed out onto the dance floor, and not have to choose between feigning complete indifference and feigning complete and unreserved enthusiasm. People are awful at dancing, especially people who aren't afraid of dancing, or are pretending to not be, because they're not paying attention to what they're doing. Either they're not even aware they have to pay attention, or they're so busy pretending to not be scared they have a hard time thinking about what they're doing. One of the things that I like about certain types of dances is the challenge of coordinating multiple movements at the same time to achieve a desired effect, which is really hard to do when you're not paying attention. note challenge and desired effect, rather than just wobbling around with no criteria. I guess what I'm getting at is if you don't dance, you may be vastly underestimating the fraction of people who can't dance. And there are also people who are undeniably technically good dancers, but are bad in the sense that they're getting into everyone's way because they're totally oblivious to people while they're trying to show off. But that's a whole other thing. So hopefully that helps explain why on earth people would want to make you dance. And more importantly, why on earth people wouldn't want to dance.
So, no. But thanks for coming. And, bye.